So, part two of this video on making this complex handle. I'm going to add in the some fillets, edge fillets, and some ribs, and these two bosses at the bottom, which you saw in the first picture. I'll show them to you again. But before we continue, I want to check that I've got all my drafts correct. So you can go across to evaluate. So it's this tab here, evaluate, and you can say draft analysis. And I'm going to select my top plane as the starting plane. Okay. And what this does is whatever the draft angle you've filled in will be evaluated against that plane. Okay. So green is positive draft, which means that's good. There's not a problem. Yellow means you don't have a draft in there or not adequate to satisfy your condition, so that you need to add one in or need to adjust it. And then red is negative, so on the underside that means that you won't be able to get this out of the mold. Let's have a look at this, because the red is not accurate in this case, but I'll explain why in a minute. So first of all, our actual draft is 0.5, and the moment I put that in, you'll see that everything on the top goes green. So I know that the whole top side is ready for being extracted out of the tool. But the whole bottom side is a negative draft. And the reason it's saying it's a negative draft, even though I know that this is not negative, is because the direction of draft is that way. And of course, there's a big wall in the way of this piece, and there are these walls as well. So let's just have a look. Let's leave that on and then have a quick, let's see if that'll do it. Yes, it will. Okay, so if I have a look here, actually I'm going to switch this off. Let's go back to evaluate, draft analysis. You might not be able to see it, but I can definitely see there's a half-degree taper inwards. So this would definitely come out. It depends on where the actual split line is. So let's take a top plane. Top plane. There we go. And I'm going to hold the control button down and just drag this top plane down to around there. And let's just use that to draft and see what happens if we go in the opposite direction. So direction of pull, it wants to know where you want to pull it to, so it should be up. I think you might have to use a line. So let's just see if I can use a plane. There we go, I can. Actually, right, so that should be top plane. Okay, right, and of course it's got to go in the opposite direction. Okay, now you can see that in fact the taper on the top plane, if I'm going in the opposite direction, is correct. So these are both correct. There's nothing wrong with them. But because I'm going to have an odd kind of split line that goes all the way around like that, I've got that error. But I'm happy that I've got a good draft on both sides. So I'm going to now continue with the rest of this model. The first thing I'm going to do is let's do some ribs, or let me see where I went on my original one. So I've got this plane, which is plane 4, that one there. Okay, so we did do ribs. Okay, so I need ribs that go from just below that surface and that surface all the way around down to the bottom. And you can't do that using the rib tool because you need sort of a flat plane to start from. Or you can do it, but it'll give you the wrong angles. It doesn't work, okay? So I'm not going to explain why, but just trust me that in this case that it doesn't work. We can explore that later on as to why it doesn't work. So what I've done instead is I've created a sketch on a plane which I've dragged out. There, that's that plane parallel to the top plane. So let's have a look at the sketch. All right, so I've got these shapes here which are sort of offset from these lines, and let me show you how to do that. So I'm just going to delete the whole lot, and I'm going to use my construction line, and the first one I'm going to base on this center point. And here what I'm going to do is click from somewhere inside or within the shape, the cavity. So how can I put it? Make sure that the line extends slightly beyond the feature that you want to put a rib on. So in this case, it's not the same as the rib tool. You actually have to make sure that the two lines interfere. So that's one, and I'm going to use that one now so that I don't do too much work in order to put the other ones in place. So let's go with another line like this. And here I'm going to start, drag, click. And I'm just eyeballing these, by the way. In this case, I'm not going to ask for you or me for fully dimensioned sketch. It'll take too long. I would ordinarily do it. I'm just trying to show you the principle here. So let's say that's enough. So I should have those lines on both sides now. Great stuff, I do. And what I need to do now is to create a rectangle around each one of these. And I could go and use the rectangle tool, but there's a much quicker way. Just select all of these lines, go to your offset tool, and under offset, first of all, let's just make this 2.5 multiplied by 0.67. That's our root thickness. And let's divide that. So divide that by 2. The reason I'm doing that is I'm going to select this bidirectional button, and that'll immediately place lines either side of the center line by that halved amount. So if I double that amount again, I'll get back to 1.6. Then I'm going to cap the ends. Okay, so here's the trick. Now, by capping the ends, I've created a closed shape, which is what I want. And under capped ends, you can see it defaults to arcs. If you default to lines, you'll get nice flat rectangular shapes. So there's a very quick way of making a whole lot of rectangular shapes. To the right size, I'm going to say OK. I'm not going to define this at all. I'm going to leave it as it is. Exit this. And now, because these are on a plane which is way above where I need to go, I can extrude them down onto this body. But I also want to chop them off. So I'm going to go back to where is it? Surface offset. Just see, okay, so that surface offset that I started is the wrong surface offset. I want this one here. I want this top one. But at the moment, the surface offset, as you can see, has got these gaps in them, and I need it to be a continuous plane. So I'm going to drag this line up to my sweep, or maybe we can go a little bit down. Yes, we can do that. And I want this surface, so I'm going to select these pieces, because this is the way I like doing things. First select the surfaces, and then go to my surfaces command, and then choose offset surface. I want it to go 2.5. Let's make it 2 millimeters. And I need it to go in the opposite direction. So there we go. We've got it. Okay, so I can have a look to see the surface bodies. I've got surface offset, that one there. This other one is hidden or no longer available because I've used it. Right, so with that surface offset, I'll be able to chop off the piece that I'm going to use. So let's just see, where are we? Ah, right. The reason I can't see the other surface offset is because I'm in this body. I've actually hidden it. Okay, so fillet, I don't want that. Right, so that's combined. I've got to find out where I am. Cut extrude. Yes, that seems to be it. And there's that plane. And there's the sketch that I'm going to use. Right, so that sketch there. Okay, so now I'm going to, let's just hide this one here. So I'm hiding that surface that I just created. I'm going to select the sketch, but I'm not going to select part of it. I'm going to select it in the feature manager so that it selects the whole sketch, and I'm going to then extrude it. So extrude, but I'm going to use that same trick as before. I'm going to say, let's not merge the results just yet. And I'm going to go from that sketch plane up to body. So if I say up to surface, this might not work. So if I say up to that surface, you'll see it's only going to go to there. And in fact, it's not showing anything at the moment. But if I say up to body, and I select this body, you'll see those shapes all extrude up to the body, and they follow the contours inside. Perfect. It's exactly what I want. And I can, in fact, put a draft on here. And in this case, I might have to make, yes, I'm going to have to make sure that the draft goes outwards, because look, it's getting narrow at the bottom, which should start fully formed at the bottom and go narrower towards the top. Okay, so I might actually have to adjust the weight of these things at the top to be much thinner, because that's a very thick rib. But for now, just understand the principle. So I'm going to say OK, and now I'm going to select this surface offset, yes, that one there, and all of these, and you'll see that these now, if I go up to the solid bodies, all of these are now separate bodies. So I'm just going to hide this one. That's going to be the easiest. So if I hide that one and I show this lowest offs, that one there, those two, I can now cut these ribs off using that surface. So go to cut with surface, select the surface. You can see it's pointing down. I want it to point upwards. Done. And then I can just hide this one. And let's make that one show. And now I'm going to use that combine command again, which is here. Go to features. Seems to have disappeared. Okay, never mind. Combine. And this time I'm going to add. So I'm going to add all of these. I should just be able to select the whole lot and say, please combine them. Yes, please. Done. And there we go. We've got that combined. Right. So now I want to put a radius and a fillet on this edge here. Okay. So let's first of all have a look at what is happening here. You can see that the fillet that I'm going to have to create, it's going to have to be an odd shaped fillet, especially because that fillet's going to come around to this end as well. So let me show you a trick with fillets. Let's go to the fillet command. And I've got the set currently at 2.5. I want it to go up to about 6.5. Which on its own is no good, because you can see it's going to interfere with what happens on this edge here. And I want a large fillet on this side and a small fillet on this side. So there is normally, I've actually gone ahead. There is this command which you can use, multi-radius fillet. It doesn't always work on such a complex shape. And in this case, I'm going to show you a slightly better way for this kind of shape, which is to use the asymmetric command. What asymmetric allows you to do is to create two fillets next to one another. One's on one side and the other's on the other one. So currently I've got 6.5 and 10. Let's make the other one 1.5, the smaller one, and see if that's doing what I want it to do. And that seems to be working in the wrong direction. It seems that the 6.5 is on the top surface and the 1.5 is on the inside surface. So I just need to swap these. So let's make this 1.5 and make this one at the bottom 6.5. And that looks much better. Look at this. I've got a 1.5 millimeter radius right at the very edge here, going to 6.5, and the same thing is happening on this side. And if I say OK to that and we go across to have a look at how we've sliced this. Oops, let's just get this around. You can see that's almost doing what I wanted to do. Probably the top of that could be a little bit 1.5. So instead of going back into the command, I can just click on this fillet and I can just adjust that. So let's make that 2.5 and see what happens. That's a much better curve, maybe not so good on this side. So here I might have to compromise. Let's make it 2. So it's not ideal because we've got a little bit of a thickening of material here, but on this side we can't have it going all the way across. So you could fine tune this, you could make it. In fact, we can't because we need an edge on here. So that's just a neat trick. You can also do multi-size fillets, but we'll deal with that in another video. Okay, so that's step 1. Step 2 is I want to put in a fillet on this edge here, which I'm going to make that into, need to change this to make it symmetric again. 1.5, I think 2 might be better. That's great. And then let's just see where I went from here. So I've actually, I think, doubled up on fillets. Edit that fillet. And it says missing edges. I can see where they were. I think they're this one here. 1.5. So we've actually run out of space here almost. 1 millimeter. Let's do that. Typically, by the way, on edges like this, you wouldn't put fillets because that makes the molding more complex, because it means you've got to cut a fillet. You've got to actually get the split line to be a little bit below that point. But because this is a handle and because we want to make it soft to hold, it might be worth the expense. So let's make that 2. See what happens. Give it the same on this edge. It might be too large. All right, so even 1.5 might be too large. 1. In this case, if it's not working, I don't think it's going to do anything. We might actually have to do the edges 1 by 1. So make that 1 fillet and then make this another one. So that seems almost to have worked. Let's see if we select another part of the edge. Nope. Right, so we need more space here. If we want to make the fillet larger, which we don't have, I'm just going to make that 1.2 and maybe make this edge as well 1.2. Okay, for now, I mean, this is not ideal, but this is good enough for just learning how this works. So from here, I want to create this fixing boss, but I want the fixing boss to start from this plane here, and I want it to extend to beyond the bounds of this, the handle, to extend to sort of be sticking out, as it were. And that's going to create a few little problems. One is I won't be able to, if I do it the way I want to do it, it's not going to give me a taper. So I want to be able to taper this thing. So for that, I need to create, before I start, I'm going to create a plane which is parallel to the top plane. So I'm just going to hold the control button down, drag this down approximately to that point. So that's just touching that line. That's good. Okay, so I'm going to use that plane a bit later. But now let's use the sketch and extrude it. And I'm not going to extrude it from the sketch plane. I'm going to extrude it from the surface plane. That's that one there. And I want it to go in the opposite direction. So I'm just going to drag this out. And I want to extend it above the plane here. So it doesn't really matter here how much I do it, just as long as it's long enough for what I want to do. And you'll see that I cannot put in a draft. Okay, so that's where this plane that I created comes in. So I'm going to say okay, and then I'm going to put a draft in. We use this plane, and it's these surfaces here that I want to draft with half a degree. Let's see which way the arrow is going. It's going in the wrong direction. That's the way it should go, pointing up. Okay, and now I need to chop these off because they're, as you can see, they've got this sort of dished top to it. So I have a plane which I created earlier, which is this plane, which I have, that's at the height that I want to chop it off. I can use the plane to chop this off. So having the plane selected, go to surfaces and use this cut with surface command, see which way that arrow faces and say okay. There we go, and you've chopped those off, right. So ribs inside here, so I'm going to use this surface. I'm going to put a sketch on it. And I just want to show you this because one other feature of ribs is that they can have closed shapes in them. So the little problem I'm going to have here at the moment is that because that bottom piece is on a surface, it won't give me the center. I should be able to place this circle. I should be able to find the center of this circle, but it seems not. So what I might have to do is to go out of this, or actually just go to this just make that, there we go, just make the sketch visible. And so now I should be able to create a sketch, put in a center line, and then use that as the base for mirroring items. So let's delete this and start again. Right, type in 8. Okay, and that should be fixed. Yes, it is. And so the other thing I want to do is to create some lines which radiate from here. So I'll just create one to start off with, which can start at the top. Doesn't need to extend all the way. And I'm going to use the circular sketch pattern to create a sort of a radial pattern around here. You'll see straight away that you get some defaults, so it's going to choose the last point that you left alone as the starting point. All you have to do is go and select a new point, so that one there. And at the moment I've got 4 instances, so you'll see here on the left hand side 4 instances. I can change that here, or I can change it inside this little dialog box. Let's make that 8. Gotcha. Okay, and we should say okay. Nope. Okay, there we go. All right, that seems to have done a little bit of something. There we go. All right, so that's how you define this, is that you connect those lines to some sort of circle or some sort of feature. Then they're locked in place, and I should have the, we don't have that on the other side. Because I didn't select this command. So I should be able to choose that patterned item and say mirror across this line. And let's see if it's done it. Only one of them. So I'm going to go back and then select all of these. Deselect this face and then say mirror across here. Okay, so that's my sketch. Well done. And from here I can just go to the rib command, which is under features, rib, and tell it what I want. So I want this to be, remember the formula, so 2.5 is the wall thickness, multiply that by 0.67 to give us the root thickness. Then we're going to give it a taper of 0.5. Might be too big, and we're going to say give us the distance at wall interface, and make sure that it's pointing in the right direction. Seems to be. Let's see if it'll do it. Drafting outwards. Yes. So draft outwards is important because where we're starting from, we need to get bigger at the bottom. And it's done it, although it's a very, very thin rib. So it's a little bit too thin. I might need to change that. So if I just click on here, I should be able to get, it just changes draft taper. To 0.25. See if that makes a difference. It seems not to have liked that, so I might have to start again. 0.25. Okay, so I might have to make this a little bit thicker. At the wall interface, I suspect that this is pointing in the wrong direction. No, it isn't. 0.25 seems to be the problem. Okay, right. So these are not really ideal. I'll have to work on this, but as long as you understand the basic principle, this is good. So that's about as much as I need to do for now. What I should be doing is I should be introducing a depression in here with sort of either a round shape so that I can put in a hex head top, or an eight-sided shape so that I can put in a bolt head. But maybe for another video. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.